So back in the late 1980s, a massive American fast food chain decided to open its very first restaurant in a Chinese city.
Which was, a huge deal at the time.
Oh, absolutely a huge deal. So 24 local people apply for a job. 23 of those people are hired. The single person who got rejected,
Yeah.
a guy named Jack Ma, who would eventually go on to build Alibaba, just a $500 billion global empire.
It's a small side project, right? And I mean, he didn't just fail at KFC. He applied to Harvard, I think, 10 times and was rejected 10 times.
Wow.
He even applied to be a police officer with 4 other people, and the other 4 were accepted. He was, once again, the only one turned away.
It is genuinely staggering to look at a track record of failure that profound and, try to map it onto one of the wealthiest men in the world.
Right. It doesn't compute.
It doesn't. But that invisible architecture of resilience is exactly what we are exploring today in this deep dive. We're pulling apart Evan Carmichael's massive book, The Top 10 Rules for Success.
And it is a massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah. Carmichael basically locked himself away for years, just sifting through thousands of hours of interviews, speeches, trying to decode the core mental operating systems of 40 different titans, billionaires, and cultural icons.
Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, Jack Ma.
Right. The people who didn't just, participate in their industries, but entirely redefine them.
And Carmichael's work is this phenomenal aggregation of data. He's looking for the patterns hiding in plain sight. But there's a danger here.
What's that?
Well, with a collection this dense, the temptation is to consume it like a novel. You sit down, you read 40 chapters of incredible advice, close the book, feel super inspired for about 20 minutes.
And then your life stays exactly the same.
Exactly, because knowledge without application is really just high-end trivia.
Yeah, and Carmichael actually issues a warning before you even read rule number 1. He insists you do not read this normally.
Yeah, his methodology is essentially like microdosing wisdom.
I love that phrase, microdosing wisdom. You take one single insight, literally just one page, read it in the morning to calibrate your mental state, and then you execute on it that same day.
You have to build the muscle memory of action.
Right. So our mission for you on this deep dive is to extract the ultimate actionable cheat sheet from these 40 titans so you can bypass the information overload and, start that daily execution.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. If we are looking at this invisible architecture, the baseline requirement before you draft a business plan, before you hire a single employee, is the internal fuel.
The starting line.
Exactly. It is striking how every single one of these leaders started from a radical internal realization that completely defied their external reality. Like take Oprah Winfrey's childhood in Mississippi.
Yeah, she provides perhaps the clearest example of this internal engine. Carmichael brands this concept with his signature hashtag, Believe.
Right. He uses hashtags a lot.
He does, yeah. He uses them deliberately throughout his work, not just as catchy chapter titles, but as digital rallying cries. It's a way to build a community around a shared mindset. And for Oprah, that core belief wasn't taught. It was innate, and it directly contradicted her environment.
She tells this incredibly vivid story about being, I think, 4 or 5 years old, sitting on the porch, watching her grandmother hang clothes on the line.
Yeah.
And her grandmother was a maid, born into the Jim Crow South. And her highest aspiration for Oprah was simply that she would grow up to find some good white folks who would treat her with, a modicum of decency as their maid. That was the blueprint handed to her.
Right.
Yet Oprah describes this visceral intuition, even at 4 years old, whispering to her that her life was meant for something entirely different.
And just, the psychological weight of that is immense. Think about it. A child rejecting the entire conditioning of their environment. She wasn't relying on data or market trends.
Because there were none.
Right. She was relying on an internal conviction that her current reality was not her permanent destination.
You see a very similar mechanism, though, entirely different in flavor, with Steve Jobs. He had this profound realization that the world isn't a fixed, concrete landscape that you just have to carefully navigate.
Right. He called it poking life.
Poking life. He realized that everything around you, every system, every product, every institution, was built by people who are fundamentally no smarter than you.
And viewing the world as malleable clay rather than a concrete wall, it changes everything about how you operate.
Completely.
But Jobs paired that realization with a very stark warning about the mechanics of doing the poking. He argued that passion isn't just some romantic luxury for artists. It is a raw survival mechanism.
Because the friction of trying to reshape reality is brutal. Jobs pointed out that any rational, sane person who doesn't possess a borderline obsessive passion would just quit.
They'd have to.
Right. The setbacks, the sheer volume of grueling work,
Mm-hmm.
it's mathematically illogical to endure it unless the work itself, the reward.
Eric Thomas frames the survival mechanism with a biological override, which I think is fascinating.
Oh, Eric Thomas is great.
Yeah, and Thomas went from being homeless and eating out of trash cans to becoming one of the most sought-after speakers in the world. He strips away all the corporate jargon and compares the drive for success to having an asthma attack.
It is such a jarring, effective metaphor.
It really is.
When you are having an asthma attack, your brain shuts down every peripheral desire. You don't care what's trending on social media. You don't care about a party. You don't care if you're embarrassed.
Every ounce of your biology is singularly focused on one outcome: getting fresh air.
Exactly. And Thomas argues that until your ambition mimics that biological desperation, you were just playing around.
And then Simon Sinek contextualizes that same raw drive through the lens of purpose, famously known as your why.
Start with why, right?
Right. Sinek's data shows that human beings don't connect with what you do. They connect with the underlying reason you do it. If you lack that overarching cause, you can't inspire consumer loyalty. And more importantly, you can't sustain your own internal motivation when things get difficult.
But, okay, let me challenge this premise for a second.
Sure.
We've got Oprah's intuition, Jobs' passion, Thomas's desperation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that internal heat actually enough? Because, we all know people who are blindingly passionate, who have a massive why, but they are completely broke and spinning their wheels.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So is passion the whole formula, or is that just the entry fee?
It is absolutely just the entry fee. Carmichael makes this explicit when he moves into his second rule, which is self-awareness. Passion without self-awareness is just chaotic, unchanneled energy.
It's just noise.
Exactly. You have to identify the specific vehicle that matches your innate competence. Tony Robbins actually dissects this by separating the vehicle from the outcome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You might be fiercely passionate about making a global impact, but does that mean you should be an entrepreneur or a writer or, an operator behind the scenes? If you apply your passion to a vehicle you have no natural aptitude for, you will just passionately fail.
Wow. Passionately fail. That's a good way to put it. It's like having a sports car. You can have the best engine in the world, but without the right fuel, your why and your passion, you aren't leaving the driveway.
Yeah.
So if passion is the raw fuel and self-awareness is choosing the right vehicle, then your mental operating system dictates how efficiently that engine runs.
Right, which moves us from pure drive into actual psychological mechanics. How do you tune the engine?
And Tony Robbins talks about the cognitive shift of raising your standards.
Yeah.
Specifically, changing your shoulds into musts.
And it sounds like a linguistic trick, right?
Right.
But it's actually a profound identity shift.
Yeah.
Robbins points out that we all have a list of things we, quote unquote, should do. We should invest more. We should network better. We should optimize our health.
Right, the endless shoulds.
But human neurology is designed to adapt to comfort. We lower our standards to meet our current environment because doing so requires less caloric and emotional energy.
So you only experience genuine behavioral change when you back yourself into a psychological corner, cut off any alternative, and make the goal an absolute must. You tie it to your core identity.
Yes.
But, applying that practically feels like a recipe for a massive panic attack.
It does sound exhausting.
Right. Constantly elevating standards, living in a state of life or death musts. How does a listener build a career with that level of intensity without burning out in 6 months? Especially when we look at someone like Sadhguru in this exact same compilation who advises people to take a holiday from seriousness.
What's fascinating here is that synthesizing those two seemingly opposed philosophies is the secret to sustainable high performance.
Okay, how so?
Well, Sadhguru is addressing the fact that human beings misuse their evolutionary hardware. Fear and anxiety are largely products of excessive imagination.
Oh, that's so true.
Right. We sit around producing complex horror movies in our minds about, a client saying no or a product launching poorly. It's a physiological tax on the body for an event that hasn't even happened.
So we are bleeding out our energy on entirely manufactured stress.
Precisely. Sadhguru's holiday from seriousness isn't about lowering your standards or just being lazy. It's about reclaiming that wasted energy. Taking charge of your inner experience and shutting off the internal horror movie is the exact mechanism that enables you to maintain Tony Robbins' high standards.
Oh, I see.
You direct your energy into the execution of the must rather than the anxiety of the what if.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And Simon Sinek offers a brilliant cognitive reappraisal technique for this.
Yes, the athletes.
Right. He noticed that when reporters interview Olympic athletes moments before a massive event, they always ask, "Are you nervous?" And the athletes invariably say no.
Which seems crazy.
Right. But if you hook them up to monitors, their autonomic nervous system is firing identically to someone having a panic attack. Racing heart, sweating, tension.
Because the biological symptoms of fear and excitement are practically indistinguishable.
Exactly. But the athlete doesn't try to calm down, which is, honestly, almost impossible when your adrenaline is spiking.
Good luck with that, yeah.
Instead, they just cognitively relabel the physical data. They tell themselves, "I'm not nervous, I'm excited." They hijack that biological surge and use it to sprint forward instead of freezing up.
And taking that a step further,
Yeah.
once you master that internal state, once you are fueled by purpose and you've optimized your mental mechanics, a very dangerous shift occurs. You start gaining traction. And when you gain traction, opportunities flood in.
Right. Suddenly, the threat isn't failure or stagnation. The existential threat to your success becomes distraction.
Yes.
Your ability to execute completely hinges on your ability to filter.
Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, uses an acronym for FOCUS. Follow one course until successful.
Follow one course until successful.
Yeah, and he illustrates this with his first real estate purchase, which was a modest $18,000 condo in Hawaii. He didn't buy the condo and then immediately pivot into crypto and then try to start a software company.
Right.
He ruthlessly repeated that single course of action, building a deep experiential groove until the mechanism of real estate investing was second nature.
It's the difference between a flashlight and a laser.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Sunlight on its own just warms the pavement, right? But if you focus it through a magnifying glass, you can start a fire. But maintaining that laser focus requires a rather aggressive relationship with the word no.
And there is a legendary interaction highlighted in Carmichael's research between Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. When they first became close friends, Gates was utterly bewildered because Buffett showed him his pocket calendar, and the pages were virtually blank.
I mean, one of the most powerful men in global finance, and his schedule looked like he was on a permanent vacation.
Exactly, because Buffett recognized early on that time is the only unrenewable asset. You know, the modern cult of busyness equates a packed schedule with importance.
Right. If you're busy, you must be important.
But Buffett equates a packed schedule with a lack of discipline. He taught Gates that exceptional success is directly correlated to your willingness to say no to good, but ultimately meaningless activities.
And Steve Jobs applied the same ruthless filtering to product lines.
Yes.
When Mark Parker became the CEO of Nike, he asked Jobs for advice. Jobs told him, "Nike makes some of the best product in the world, but you also make a lot of crap. Just get rid of the crappy stuff."
So blunt, but so true.
It sounds so simple, right?
Yeah.
But for the listener who is currently juggling a day job, trying to launch a side hustle, and managing family obligations, the sheer volume of choices is paralyzing.
It's overwhelming.
So they know they need to focus, but how do they practically determine what to cut? What is the mathematical filter for saying no? So it's not just based on FOMO or like an instinct to please people.
Well, Buffett relies on two interconnected frameworks to automate those decisions: the circle of competence and the margin of safety.
Okay, break those down.
Your circle of competence is the defined arena where you possess a distinct, unfair advantage in knowledge. If an opportunity, no matter how lucrative it appears, falls a millimeter outside that circle, the answer is an automatic no. You don't rely on willpower, you rely on the boundary of the circle.
Got it. And the margin of safety acts as the buffer for the unknown.
Exactly. Buffett explains it like engineering a bridge. If you know you have to drive a 10,000-pound truck across a gorge, you don't build a bridge with a 10,000-pound capacity.
Because if the wind blows, you're done.
Right. You build a bridge that can hold 30,000 pounds. You say no to any venture, relationship, or investment that doesn't offer a massive margin of safety, hedging against your own inevitable mistakes.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's say you've done all this. You've honed your focus, you were saying no to distractions, and you are operating inside your circle of competence. Because you are moving so fast and decisively, you are going to inevitably collide with the friction of the real world.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to face intense criticism.
And often the friction isn't coming from anonymous competitors. It comes from your immediate circle. Evan Carmichael coined the hashtag little man to categorize this specific archetype.
The hashtag little man.
Yeah. The little man is the voice of limitation. It's the friends, family members, or colleagues who project their own insecurities onto your ambitions, listing all the logical reasons your ideal will fail.
And the insidious part is that they often do it under the guise of love or protection.
Yes. I'm just looking out for you.
Exactly.
Well,
But the result is that you shrink your risk profile to fit comfortably inside their limited expectations. You end up abandoning your own blueprint to live a slightly modified version of theirs.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to Jack Ma and his absurd streak of rejections.
when Jack Ma first discovered the internet during a trip to the U.S., he saw its potential to democratize commerce. He came back to China and pitched the concept of what would become Alibaba. He called it his open sesame vision.
Open sesame.
Yeah, the idea that the internet could be the magic password that unlocks the global trade vault for tiny, forgotten Chinese manufacturer.
And his friends thought he was delusional.
Literally told him the internet was a scam.
But he possessed this Teflon coating against rejection. Robert Kiyosaki theorizes that our inability to handle this kind of friction is structurally programmed into us by the traditional education system.
School, yeah.
In school, mistakes are penalized. If you take a risk on a test and get it wrong, you receive a permanent failing grade.
Which creates a psychological environment where avoidance of failure is prioritized above the pursuit of innovation.
But Kiyosaki points out that the real world operates on the exact opposite mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a baby learning to walk. They stand up, they immediately fall down, they hit their head.
Right.
They gather the data from that fall, adjust their center of gravity, and try again. If babies internalized failure the way school conditions adults to, humanity would still be crawling.
But, we have to make a crucial distinction here.
Right.
How does a rational operator differentiate between ignoring the hashtag little men, the toxicators, and ignoring actually valid constructive feedback that could prevent a catastrophic loss? Blind stubbornness isn't a strategy.
That's a great point. And Buffett offers the ultimate clarifying measure for this.
What's that?
He states emphatically that he doesn't care if the entire world disagrees with his position, provided he knows his facts are right.
Facts.
That is the separator. The little man operates on assumptions, fear, and conventional wisdom. Constructive criticism operates on verifiable data.
Which is why multiple leaders in Carmichael's book emphasize the mechanics of failing small. You don't ignore the data. You actively seek it out by running micro-experiments.
Right, you don't remortgage your house to fund an untested app.
Please don't. You build a cheap prototype, release it, and let the market punish you a little bit. You absorb the factual criticism, adjust the product, and iterate. You use failure as an intelligence-gathering tool rather than letting the fear of judgment stop you from acting entirely.
Let's assume you've navigated all of this successfully. You've dialed in your internal passion, you've optimized your mental mechanics, you are fiercely focused, and you've learned to process failure as data.
You're cruising.
You're cruising. But you will eventually hit a hard physical ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day, and your own two hands can only output so much value.
True.
The transition from a high performer to a titan requires stepping back. You have to stop operating the machine and start architecting the system.
Right. You transition from managing your own effort to acquiring and deploying leverage. And the most complex form of leverage is human capital.
Oh, absolutely.
Warren Buffett has a notoriously strict filter for this. When he hires leaders to run his subsidiaries, he screens for 3 specific traits: integrity, intelligence, and energy.
But the hierarchy of those traits is ruthless.
He explicitly warns that if a candidate lacks the first trait, integrity, the other 2 will destroy you.
Wow.
Yeah, if you hire someone who is exceptionally smart and highly energetic, but they lack a moral compass, they will efficiently and creatively dismantle your business from the inside.
That is terrifying.
He says you want the dumb, lazy employee if they lack integrity. Once you have the right people, Buffett focuses entirely on widening the company's moat.
The moat.
The structural, durable, competitive advantage that protects your castle from invaders.
And managing those highly capable people requires a distinct psychological shift. Tony Robbins draws a massive line between delegation and leverage.
People get these confused all the time.
All the time. Most managers think they're using leverage when they delegate, But what they're actually doing is dumping. They hand a complex task to a subordinate, fail to provide context, and then erupt in anger when the execution is flawed.
Because delegation is often just abdicating responsibility. Leverage is an entirely different mechanism.
I think of it like building a mechanical pulley system.
Okay.
Delegation is just handing a heavy boulder to someone else and hoping their back doesn't give out. Leverage is taking the time to design and assemble a system of ropes and pulleys so that your 1 pound of directional effort effortlessly lifts 100 pounds of weight.
That's a perfect analogy.
Robbins argues that true leverage is achieved not by assigning tasks, but by ensuring the team deeply understands the ultimate outcome and the foundational purpose of the project. When they own the why, they engineer their own how.
And that shared vision allows your team to act as a crucial counterweight to your own blind spots. Bill Gates has openly stated that his most brilliant business maneuvers weren't solitary genius moments.
Really?
Yeah, they were his decisions to partner with people like Paul Allen and Steve Ballmer. He intentionally surrounded himself with individuals who shared his fanatical vision for Microsoft, but possessed entirely different cognitive skill sets.
He didn't want room full of yes men.
Exactly. He wanted complements who could look at his code or his strategy and aggressively point out the flaws.
But when you construct this massive pulley system of leverage, who is it ultimately designed to serve? Jack Ma instituted a fiercely controversial hierarchy of priorities when he took Alibaba public. He stood in front of the financial world and declared his ranking. Customers are number 1, employees are number 2, and shareholders are firmly number 3.
I mean, in traditional American corporate governance, that is pure actionable heresy.
What absolute heresy.
The fiduciary duty is always to maximize shareholder value above all else.
But Ma defended the mechanism behind it by looking at what happens under extreme stress. During the 2008 financial crisis, when the market panicked, the shareholders, the people who supposedly owned the company, were the first to run for the exit.
Right, they abandoned ship.
They abandoned ship, but his employees stayed and worked grueling hours, and his customers continued to use the platform to survive. He realized that the people interacting with the product and the people building the product are the actual structural foundation of the moat. The shareholders are just tourists.
Wow. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this transition from operator to architect hiring for integrity, building pulley systems of leverage, prioritizing the right stakeholders, this is the exact mechanism for achieving what Robert Kiyosaki defines as true financial independence.
Right. You stop trading hours for dollars.
Precisely. You shift your intense focus away from generating earned income, where your time is the bottleneck, and you focus entirely on acquiring and building assets.
Like Kiyosaki talks about.
Exactly. An asset is a system with a strong moat and high leverage that produces value independent of your daily physical input. You transition from a state where you work for the machine to a state where the machine works for you.
Which brings this entire architectural blueprint full circle. Because to have the sheer endurance required to build that self-sustaining machine, to survive the rejections, to tune out the little man, to maintain the terrifying discipline of a blank calendar, you have to return to that initial internal engine.
You really do.
You have to tap into Oprah's innate intuition and Eric Thomas's desperate pursuit of air. It is a continuous, looping ecosystem of success. We started by learning to manufacture our own fuel. Then we upgraded our mental mechanics to transform anxiety into momentum.
Yeah.
We locked in our focus by ruthlessly eliminating the non-essential. We redefined failure as a data gathering tool. And finally, we built the leverage required to scale beyond our own physical limits.
It's quite a journey.
It is. So, to you, the listener, the blueprint has been demystified. But remember, Evan Carmichael's core rule. Do not just consume this as entertainment. Choose one concept we discussed today. Just one action.
That's wow.
You're going to redefine a should into a must. Are you going to cancel a meeting that falls outside your circle of competence? What is your one action today?
And, as you decide on that action, I want to leave you with one final, slightly disruptive mechanism to ponder.
Okay.
Carmichael's entire project is predicated on the immense value of modeling success, right? Find the titans, decode their rules, map their architecture onto your own life.
Right.
But if we zoom out and look at the timeline of innovation, who were these pioneers modeling when they were actively tearing down their industries?
Oh, that's a great question.
Steve Jobs wasn't consulting a manual when he envisioned a touchscreen computer in your pocket. Oprah didn't have a historical template for building her media empire. So if you truly aspire to reach that absolute highest echelon of success, does modeling the greats eventually require you to deliberately abandon their rules, burn the manual, and write your own.
The ultimate paradox of success. You learn the rules just so you know how to break them properly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the visible blueprints, keep building your invisible architecture, and as always, stay curious.